record it in case it's really great that gets shared, you know? You never know. Never know. All right. Okay, so things are going good. What do you have good for us, David? What's going on good in your life? You don't have to turn your camera on, but I want to know what's going good.
Oh, I don't know. Honestly, I was very excited for the weather to finally get some sun.
Heck yeah.
I
Well,
just-
door knocking weather.
Yeah, not anymore. I think we're back to winter again.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yep.
Cool.
Just planning this. We're going on vacation. Me and my wife we're going to Texas. We're gonna go visit her parents. They live in
Oh,
Texas.
sweet.
Yeah.
Where is that in Texas?
I think it's Dallas. Yes.
Oh, sweet.
Well, she's right behind me to confirm.
Oh, heck yeah. Yeah, Dallas is fun
Yeah.
place.
Well, I'm
I
excited.
made a fool out of myself last time I went to Dallas, but that's a
did?
different story for a different day.
Okay.
Okay. Cool. Well, I'm glad. Yeah, everything's good. Market's picking up getting pretty warm, which we like. So, well, I like. I mean,
Yeah, that's what I've been seeing.
yeah. Yeah. So it's heating up a little bit. Do you guys want to share with us about like what's going on with interest rates? Because I feel like it turned out to be a little different than what we expected this week. Is that right? You guys want to share here? Maybe you could be on your microphone. All right, Jesse. We're ready for it.
So we were expecting, especially on Wednesday, yesterday, with the inflation report to come back negative, and with the other headwinds throughout April, with the economic data starting with last week and the jobs report, because that really started the initial downfall. So we thought Wednesday was going to continue that, but which part of it came back better than expected?
The headline number came back actually a full % lower, which was great. But the core CPI reading came back a 10th% higher. So the markets actually have been confused all week. We saw rates go down, then go back up, and now we're kind of sitting like even. We're still lower than we were probably 2 weeks ago. That jobs report definitely did a number. I mean, we lost quite a bit of progress last Friday. So we're still down from the trend we were on. And it's probably going to be like this, like we have mentioned, until May 10th, that May 10th reading. That's when we should see a huge drop off in the inflation readings. And I mean, we might even be seeing deflationary readings, which
Dang.
I mean, we could see rates fall pretty quick if we start seeing that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, not to mention rates coming down, that's kind of what's bringing a lot of these people back in, but a busier time in the market anyways, right? Spring and summer, more people are coming back in naturally, and you add on lower rates and no inventory. I mean, it's just a recipe for craziness. So
Totally.
The media is still trying to fearmonger with what they're saying, making the market seem like it's in a worse condition than it is. So just be on the lookout if your clients are, bring up fears that the media is talking about. Give them facts. Lean on us if you have questions, because we actually know the true details of what's going on. So, yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Love it. Okay, so that's what's going on with the markets heating up. Interest rates are kind of flat maybe for the last couple weeks, and yeah, sweet. Yeah, and if you were to like quote just a random, like, what is that interest rate right now? What would you say?
Conventional, you're probably somewhere mid sixes. FHA, you're probably 0.25% lower, somewhere around there.
Cool.
So,
Cool. Awesome. Any comments, questions? Good. Easy enough. Okay. Awesome. Okay. Well, today we're going to talk about something that's way exciting, or at least that I think is exciting, which is working with sellers. So hopefully,
Sorry, Nick. Sorry for interrupt.
No, go crazy.
I was just wondering, is there a way that we can have like an update of where the interest rates are at? Or do we just do the, I mean, do my
Hey.
clients have to get that information from the lenders? Because I've been working with some clients, but they're just waiting for a certain percentage, you know, on the interest rates, but I don't know how to like keep them updated or to know where the interest rates are at.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with that is, yeah, we have like general rates that you could be seeing. You have averages, right? Some are in sixes, some are mid sixes, some are low sixes. There's so many variables that'll throw things off for that specific client. So maybe use like an average, say they're somewhere in the sixes just to give them an idea, but tell them my lender can get you a free, no obligation quote. They can go over some more information and get, accurate, like catered information to you. So you don't feel like, you're seeing all different numbers and you're confused and all over the place. There's a lot of murkiness to sift through. And on the lending side, we can help the client, guide them through that.
Okay, no, that definitely makes sense because it really depends on the client and and what they're able to get, depend credit score and all that stuff. But
Exactly. A lot of different factors that go into it for sure.
okay,
Yep. So yeah, I never really quote rates. I don't even quote programs or down payments or any of that stuff, just because it's kind of like there's so many different variables, hard to know. Like I can't know all the requirements for all that. So I always send them to the lender, especially our awesome ones. Like it's a no-brainer. They'll work with them. They'll move them down the field. They'll figure out what their budget looks like. I mean, they have access to all of their debts, all of their income and everything. So they can really help them figure out what makes sense for them. So they're in a way good space to be able to do that. Hey, Carly. Yeah, so just lean on your lenders. Don't feel like you need to know everything. Hey. Don't feel like you need to know everything. Just lean on your lenders, get them over there as soon as possible. There's always the conversation of like, hey, when should I send them over to the lender? Immediately, if 6 months, a year out, 2 years out, I don't really care. Get them with the lender because it's more than just getting a pre-qualification. I feel like everyone's just like, okay, are you pre-approved? That's like the main conversation that we have. But it's like, it's different. Having a relationship with the lender is different because the lender is going to know everything about your situation. You can build that rapport, build that relationship so that when you do find something and you want to move on it, they know all this stuff. They can also help them plan to make sure that their credit gets fixed, or they make sure that they get the best pricing once they're ready to go or whatever. So
Yeah. Lean on us for the conversion and the strategizing. We do both.
totally.
And if your client's not, in the place where they can buy or want to buy, we'll make sure they're on the right path towards that achievement of home ownership. We don't care whether you buy now or in a year from now, just as long as you're on that path. That's all we really care about.
Totally. Awesome. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and jump into it. So today we're going to go through something that I think is pretty cool because it's really the value that we offer the market. So do you guys remember, who knows what the 3 L's are? I know you probably won't be able to see it on Zoom, but you know what the 3 L's are? Anyone? The 3 L's? No. It is, I would say it is realtor specific. Leads, listings, and leverage. Leads, listings, and leverage. So those are the 3 L's from MREA. So those are the 3 things that your business needs to be able to be profitable, to be able to move forward. So leads, listings, and leverage. Obviously, when you have the leads, they turn into listings through leverage. So we have the systems and tools to be able to get us listings and leads, and then also those tools to turn them into listings and actually get them closed. So those are the 3 things. If you do without any of those, you're not going to be able to survive. Leverage can be people or it can be systems. So, like our CRMs, our systems, or, our assistants or our operations teams, those are obviously people. So anyways, those are the 3 L's. So today we're going to talk about the listings. That really is super crucial. So who has an idea of why we want listings? Like, why would listings be good? Any ideas? Yeah. Yeah, at least, right? Totally. Easier to come across? I don't know. It probably depends on the market, maybe. But listings, yeah, I mean, they're definitely, it's a way you can get paid, so that's nice. It's, if you have the listings, you also have access to the leads, because the person with all the listings has all the buyers calling the signs or inquiring online about your listings, you know? So you get all these leads. Those leads you turn into buyers or turn into additional listings. Plus, listings are the easiest to leverage. Between buyers and sellers, listings are pretty easy to leverage because it's all you have to do is have a photographer come out, have a stager come out, have a cleaner come out, like get your sign in the yard. Like, there's all these things that you can ask other people to do for you. So it's very leveraged. Not to mention, when you take a listing, have you ever wanted to start a team? No, you have no desire to start a team. Oh, no.
They thought of it, but they're saying that just doing it with a mentor is helping you grow
Yeah,
instead of helping someone else grow, and I think that's just where I would want to be.
totally. Totally.
I think a group team would be fun.
Totally.
I think I would.
For sure. Got it. Totally. Well, and that might change as you're like, okay, I've got so much business that I need help. Maybe not joining someone else's team, but you may start your own team, right? So you may decide down the road, you may say, oh, I really need an assistant, or I need someone on the back end, making sure everything works really well. And, or whatever, buyers agents or whatever. The cool thing is when you have listings, you have a team, because every listing that you put up gets sent out to like 15,000 realtors, and they literally go show your property for you to all their buyers, right? So it's super cool. So it's like, if you want to be on a team, if you want to have a team, take a listing, and the whole county is going to band together to get it sold for you, which I think is kind of cool. So anyways, that's why listings are so important. Obviously, it's there's some new things that I think make a difference too. And I'm not to be like Wade Doomsday or anything, but you know, the buyer agent commission is under attack right now in a pretty heavy way. And I don't know that it'll actually go anywhere, but it is like, I don't know, it's moving. So, so it's kind of going to be interesting, but let's say that we got rid of buyer agent commissions paid by sellers tomorrow. What would that look like? We would all be listing agents. So that would be interesting, right? That would change the game a little bit. Or you could be a buyer's agent. We just have to convince our clients to pay us a commission directly, which we probably could do that too. So we'll figure it out one way or the other. I'm not like doomsdaying about the real estate market. I plan on being in the real estate business for a very long time, so I'm not worried about it. But one thing is, the listing commission has never been under attack because, you know, sellers say, hey, I want to list my house with you. They pay us. There's nothing wrong with it. But all the lawsuits are about whether the seller should really be paying for the buyer's realtor, basically. So anyways, for all those reasons, leads, listings, and leverage, that's why, you know, it's important to focus on listings. Most, when you usually get started, a lot of times we lean more into buyers, but as your career grows, you'll likely lean towards sellers because there's a lot of, you know, and we're usually around 50-50, but it can kind of go back and forth. So anyways, the big thing is when we're working with our clients, whether it's buyers or sellers, it's really important that we do an awesome job, that we really show them that we care, that we do a great job to make them top dollar, because that is what sellers want, right? Totally what sellers are looking for, top dollar. And they also want it to be easy. They don't want a whole lot of hassle. They want to keep it simple, right? So they don't want to have to deal with all the stuff. Okay, so I'm going to go through what it looks like. Now, the last class was about the listing consultation, what that looks like, what the process is that we go through. And now it's like, okay, we took the listing. Now, how do we service that client the best way possible? So I'm going to touch on one other thing real quick. I forget that I want to go through this listing process just because there's some things that we do that are a little bit unique. I'm not saying they're like crazy unique that you won't see them anywhere else, but the listing checklist that we have goes through a lot of different places where we can actually service our clients. So let's say you take that listing, we officially get it up. then we have to market it, right? And I think the general public thinks that we mostly market their properties, like that's our main job. I would say we more so negotiate and write contracts and like really protect their interest, but they really like to see the marketing side. That's they think that's super valuable, which I think there's some value there. I don't know that it's the most valuable, but there's definitely some value in it. So, okay, so when we take the listing, we get all of our stuff that we need to do, but there's also some extra things you can do to make sure they see a lot of value in what we're doing. So one is deep cleaning. Like we get our listings deep cleaned to make sure that they look perfect at the open house. So that's just something we always do. Buyers like to see a house that's clean. They can imagine their family living there. They can see their kids crawling on the floor and not be grossed out by that, So deep cleaning is really good. Of course, professional photography is a big thing. So you want to get professional photos done. They don't have to be expensive. They're about the ones that I get are about $100. They look so good. They're not the best. Like I know of another company that does just a little bit better, like a little more like well crafted, but it's really worth it to have great pictures. And like the ones I get are super cheap, like $100. So it's not bad. So you want to make sure it looks good on there, but there's a couple extra things that we do. So one, order listing coverage home warranty from someplace. We use Silverback Home Warranty. You can use anyone. That's a really cool value add that you can do for your sellers that basically will cover their house in case something breaks in the first year that they live there. So it'll protect like electrical, plumbing, their appliances, like the most expensive parts of the house, it'll protect, which is cool. But the listing coverage is free. So we can offer that to the seller and just say, hey, when you list with me, we'll cover your house until we get it sold. It'll be protected. If something comes up, if there's a furnace issue or a water heater issue or whatever, like that'll help cover it, which I think is a cool value add. And it's free. So why not?
Hey, Nick, I don't know if you can hear me, sorry.
Totally.
Hey, how do I I contact Silverback and just give him the address, or how do I set that up?
Yeah. So just go to silverbackhomewarranty.com and I'm reading, but go to silverbackhomewarranty.com and place an order. So choose the $0 listing coverage from the options and then put in the address and the contact info there. So super easy. Silverbackhw.com. And then there are other options for home warranty, or so it says. So you could use whoever, but Silverback is who I personally use. That helpful?
Awesome. Yep. Thank you.
Sweet. Yeah, of course. Yeah, even if you never use it, it'll be nice just to let them know that you got it for them, that you're taking care of them, and it's free. So why not? Yeah, I feel like this is like a checklist for you, Carly. It's like, okay, what do I need to do next? Because this is exactly where you're at, right?
Exactly.
How do I deliver on this awesome listing that I just took? Okay, perfect. So set up the showing service. That's something that you're going to want to do. Set up the showing service. Now there's two within the MLS. There's aligned showings and there's showing time. Both of them are fine. Either one is fine. But basically setting that up, you can basically set it up so that when someone books an appointment, it'll ask the seller directly, hey, does this time work for you? And it just texts them. So it's really easy for them to respond. That makes it so that we don't have to middleman, because we have to make double the conversations. If the buyer agent reaches out to us, I mean, think about it. The buyer reaches out to their buyer's agent to go see it. The buyer agent reaches out to the listing agent to go see it. The listing agent reaches out to the seller to see if that time works for them. Seller says yes or no, and then the listing agent reaches out to the buyer's agent who reaches out to it's honestly just too much. It's too complicated. And a lot of the old time realtors, they're just like, geez, like we get paid so much. Like the least we could do is set up our own showings and not use technology for that. But it's like your clients are not going to hire you because you personally set up the showings. They don't care who sets up the showings. And honestly, they'd probably prefer the text that they can just reply Y or N or yes or no and move on. You agree? Disagree? Yeah. So I feel like when people say that, I'm like, I'm not sure you know what the value is that you bring, and maybe you don't bring any value, and maybe that's why you don't deserve the commission that you get. Oh, yes. Thank you. Always keeping an eye out. Always keeping an eye out. Okay, hey Jamie. Yeah, you probably don't have audio yet, but okay. Yeah, so set up showing time or align showings. It's switching. What? Did I say something like wildly inappropriate? Okay. I felt like I blacked out for a second, so I'm like, oh gosh, what did I say? What did I do? Okay. So set up showing time or align showings. Align showing is going to be the new one. So if you're not used to showing time, you might just go to align showings, because that's going to be the new one. But it's really easy. Set it up, make your life a lot easier. Send a congratulations card. Your home is on the market. So we just have these thank you cards. We fill them out. Thanks so much for trusting us to sell your home. It's officially on the market. Let us know if there's anything you need. So we do like to give a lot of that stuff. We also send a gift. I honestly couldn't tell you off the top of my head what it is. I think it might be chips and salsa that we send out, but it's like just a nice gift that they, that says congrats, you're on the market. Send out just listed postcards. So we do that. We send it out to the nearest 200 neighbors, just to help get the word out and whatnot, let people know. Anything that you're spending money on for your sellers, probably for your buyers too, but specifically for your sellers, the only thing I like to spend money on is stuff that I can brag to my sellers about, because that's what it's all about. Basically, we need to have value we can offer to our sellers. So like the listed postcards, if we just send those and we don't tell anyone, then we don't get mileage out of it. And so one thing that I realized is I was trying to make it really easy for people, and I still do that, but I also let them know what we're doing. So it's like, hey, just so you know, 200 just listed postcards went out to all your neighbors to find out who they know that might be looking. So, hey man. So, if we let them know what we're doing for them, then they're like, oh, sweet. Like that's, appreciate that or whatever. But then they know we're doing stuff. If we're not communicating with them, they won't know that we're doing stuff for them. So you got to kind of give them the information. Same with social media posts. They might see that anyways, because they'll probably follow you on social media, but make a social media post with the details. Listed on KSL and Facebook Marketplace. Those are two really great places to get leads. So those would be awesome places to go. I would totally, they're both free. So why not? Just easy. And these have some step-by-step walkthroughs of how to do any of that if you're not sure how. So go through the listing and edit out the grand open. Oh, this is okay. On our team, everything that we do more than once, we have a system for, right? And I didn't get an amen, but everything we do more than once, we have a system for. So like one thing that we added to our listing process is this says, so normally when we're listing a house, once we get it on the market, we say like grand open house, no showings until grand open house, which is on Saturday, right? So that's normally just how we do it. But one thing that I found out, because if you're ever looking at houses, you'll find a house that says no showings until grand open house. And then it'll say the grand open house was like February 20th. And they never delete it out. They just leave it there. So when you're looking at it, it looks really crusty that it just says like February 20th. It's like we're in April, middle of April. So I added on here basically a check mark for hey, once the grand open house is done, we have to go remove that stuff, because if we don't get it sold in the first weekend, we're gonna want to have that removed so it looks clean. So anytime as you're just doing stuff, if you're like, oh, I want to make sure I always remember that, or especially if you forget something or there's a problem, we're always like putting it in a process so that it's resolved, basically. So now we have an actual click mark or check mark where it's like, we removed that. Now it's not going to look old and crusty. So anyways, any questions on that? Like how we're actually marketing the house to get it sold? Any of that? Okay. Awesome. Okay, so now we're going to go over, are you sure? I feel like I didn't give you enough time. Speak now, especially Carly. You're probably thinking about it more than anyone right now. So
No, I think, yeah, I just signed up for that home warranty. So
oh, cool.
I had forgotten about that. So that was good.
Oh, good. Yeah, I love it. The cool thing about Silverback too is they always communicate with your clients. So Like when you signed up for it, if you put in your client's actual email, it sent them an email that says, hey, because you were smart enough to hire Carly as your listing agent, you got a free listing coverage warranty from Silverback. So it's like, it always is there to make us look good. And even for your buyers, it's the same thing, which I kind of like. So just so you know, your seller probably knows. So you could even send a text, hey, just so you know, I signed you up for this free listing coverage. It'll protect you in case anything, major comes up between now and then. So anyways, all right. Okay, so now we're going to switch gears. So that's kind of how we get our listing up, how we get it marketed and everything. Now we're going to go into like what happens once we're under contract. So we got it up. And then we collected offers. Of course, we sort through if we had multiple offers or any negotiations, just know I'll be there to help you through any of that. So negotiating contracts and making sure your clients get the best terms, the best price, all that, I'll be there for you. So no worries. But now we're under contract and now we have to move towards closing. So one thing that I talk about a lot is every transaction, I feel like most transactions are either destined to succeed or destined to fail at the beginning. Like the way you set it up makes a big difference on whether it's going to close or not close. So you can't have every deal close. That's not how it works. But if you set things up with really loose deadlines with question marks on their financing, like where it might go or might not go, or, like if you don't set it up really well, it's going to be a mess. So specifically buyers, at least, if you have a problem with the contract, the way that it's been set up, the buyer can say, hey, I don't like the way this was set up. I want to change it. And if you don't change it, I'm going to bail. So that's an option buyers have. Sellers don't have that option. So when you're representing sellers, it's super important that they understand everything that they sign. Every contract that we go under, it has to be correct. Because if there's something wrong, let's say you left off a 0, the buyer is legit going to sue them for the $10,000 or I guess up to $100,000, $99,000 in that difference, like it's going to be a big deal. So it's really important that your sellers are 100% sure. I always go through like the inclusions in section 2. I read those through with my seller. Hey, these are all the items that are included with the sale. Is there anything that you can think of that might fall into one of those categories that we need to specifically exclude? Because once we sign it, it's done. And if the buyer wanted to sue you, they could literally sue your seller to do exactly what that contract says. It's really scary, honestly. So I don't say it to be dramatic, but it's a little scary. It's intense. So that's when I was an agent writing all my own contracts and everything, I literally only signed seller side repsies in person so that I could go through it with them. I could make sure I explained it and everything. I'd say we've probably gotten a little less formal with that as an industry. And also, I don't know that it's totally necessary, but it is necessary that you go through it. You don't just say, hey, you got an offer for $725. I'm going to send it over to you. Do you like it? If so, just sign it and send it back. But we're not going to do that. There's too many other things in the contract that you want to make sure are secured, that are cemented. Anyways, so just know the way we set up those offers, sometimes I'm kind of strict on the offers. I'm like, hey, I really don't think you should do that. If I'm telling you that, it's probably because, you might get it under contract, but it may not get to closing. If a person has a huge contingency they have to get through, I'd rather it stay on the market so we can find a buyer that doesn't have to worry about it. And if that person who had a huge contingency is super interested in it, they can work on that while we're still on the market. And if it's still available, then they can move forward. But there's just little things that we do that way. Okay. So I'm not going to go through all the boring stuff, like send congratulations email to client. That's not really boring, but basically we send out an email. There's a template of what it looks like. It says, congratulations, you're under contract. Here's what to expect next. It's really cool. Change the status in the MLS. That's kind of obvious. Send out under contract postcard to the nearest 200 homes. So this goes to the repetition is the way that people build trust. So if we send out a just listed postcard today, and then in 2 weeks, we send out hey, we just went under contract postcard. And then in a month, we send out a sold postcard. That's going to get the repetition with the neighbors. And they're going to be like, wow, like these people are good at what they do. They're good at communicating. Like they're pros, So anyways, that's something you can do. It's also kind of expensive. What would be a less expensive way to do that? Because that's probably, I bet that's $600 in postcards because they're about $1 each. What would be a less expensive way to let all the neighbors know what's going on when you list it, under contract, or sell it? Door knocking, 100%. So cool thing with our office, you get free black and white printing up to a certain amount. And you also get color printing for super cheap. So if you want to print some stuff out, even you can cut them in half. You can, 2 per page. You can print them out super cheap and then go door to door and just knock on it. Hey, you might have noticed our sign went up. We're listing your neighbor's house. Want to let you know we just got it listed. We've got an open house on Saturday. Want to invite you to come out to it. Great. Then once it goes under contract, hey, just wanted to let you know real quick. Thanks so much for your cooperation with the open house. I know there's probably a little bit of extra traffic on your street. Appreciate you being what's the word, patient with us on that. But the cool thing is it turned into a contract and we're officially pending on that house. So that's exciting. And then go knock on the door. Hey, just want to let you know, we actually ended up closing on that house. Here's what it sold for and whatnot. Do you think through that process, you might find out, oh, they're interested in what their home's worth, or they have another neighbor who might be interested or something like that, it can really turn into some other business. So order under contract gift. So we order it just from this gal who makes these gifts for us, but you could make your own gifts. You could buy them from like Neaters, or there's a million gifting places, but we like to send them something that says, congrats, you're under contract. Just to kind of continue cementing that. For buyers, I bet you guys have a similar philosophy on this. I don't know. But when we were working with buyers, we send them a congrats, you're under contract thing. We want to give them a lot of gifts. We want to like really make it very formal, like you're officially under contract. I think part of it helps the deal be a little stickier because it's like all this excitement about going under contract. They don't really want to back out of it, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, totally. Totally. Yeah, I mean, obviously you want to, do you guys still send them to their work or do you send them to their home? I know there's always a lot of pushback with sending them to their work, but okay, sweet. Yeah, we used to always send them to their work because then all their coworkers would see it and stuff and just got a lot of mileage, but it kind of, sometimes it can come off a little spammy. I still think it, depending on the place, it might make more sense, So I don't know, but yeah, gifting, I think just formalizes things, makes it really serious. And I don't know, I like it. So plus I do prefer to give nice little gifts along the way. If we wait until closing and then just give them a closing gift, the message that I don't like, and I'm not saying it's bad because a lot of people do it. It really isn't bad. It's just personal preference. But when we close, they know how much we make. Right? Like they know. So let's say it's $15,000. They're like, okay, today Nick made $15,000 and he gave me maybe $50 in stuff, like a basket or something like that. And I just don't really like the correlation because I'm not giving them a gift because I made money. That's not really, you know what I mean? So I prefer just some maybe smaller gifts along the way. It's not exactly coinciding with when I'm getting paid or anything, because I don't think we really owe them a gift. I think it's just something like nice that we can do for them throughout to make them feel warm and fuzzy about it. But yeah, if you go to court, you're suing someone for a bunch of money and you win, your attorney doesn't give you a gift. Like your gift is that you won, So, so I think, a lot of times we look at doctors and attorneys, how do they run their offices? Like some people hate that realtors have like assistants. Like, no, you shouldn't have an assistant. You need to do it all yourself. Okay, well, if you call Keller Williams in Austin, Market Center number 1, the original one, do you think Gary Keller answers the phone? No. He doesn't answer the phone, right? There's someone that answers the phone. Like that's probably their job, or maybe it's his assistant, or maybe I don't know how it works exactly. When you go to the doctor, when you call to schedule an appointment, does your doctor answer and you set that appointment? No, there's just steps, or even you go in to get weighed and have them check your height. Like there's different roles, you know? So anyways, okay. A lot of this is just like documents and stuff. You'll have a TC and you'll have me, and our coaching team like ready to help you out with all that stuff. So you should be good. So I'm not going to go through the boring stuff, but I'm going to go through the value add stuff. And then I do want to go through potential obstacles real quick. Let me just make sure I don't want to miss anything on this list. That's important. Well, I guess, okay, this is kind of going to walk us through obstacles too. So, okay, there's a few obstacles within our real estate transaction. Your main ones are due diligence and then finance and appraisal. Those are the two main obstacles for the most part. That's where deals either stay together or fall apart. So due diligence is obviously mostly referring to the inspection. So on the buyer side, you have your own things that you do at the inspection. But on the seller side, what can we do to make it go smoother during the inspection process? The main thing that we can do is let our clients know, hey, based on the REPC, they can do any tests they want. A normal inspection, including meth, mold, radon, anything they want to test for, lead-based paint, any of that. They're able to do that at their own expense. So you don't have to pay for it, but they can do any test that they want. And then I also set a really good precedent that the buyer is likely going to come up with items because the inspector is there searching through everything. They're going to find items that are wrong with the house, maybe items they don't even know about. And that's just normal. So by setting the precedent that, hey, they're going to find problems and then we're going to talk about them. I'm not saying you have to fix everything, but we're going to have a discussion about it and make sure that everyone's happy. By doing that, they're going to have a good expectation set. If you don't have that and all you do is there's the inspection and you're like, hey, they want a new roof, then they're like, whoa, like why? Like what's going on, you know? But if you really set the expectation that there's going to be issues, we're going to talk about them. They're not going to be surprised. They're going to be like, okay, like let's see what the deal is and we'll work something out. So, and on the buyer side, it's important to tell the buyer, hey, the inspector, his job is to get a huge list of all the problems with the house. He's going to find a ton of stuff. You're going to get a huge report. Well, what if you didn't tell them that and they just get the report, they open it in their email and there's 10 pages of issues with the house? They're going to be like, whoa, like this is scary, you know? So it does matter. Now, the buyer may ask for specific repairs to be done. We can usually resolve that with either having the seller do the repairs, having the seller credit them a certain amount of money for the repairs, or reducing the price. And most of your sellers are going to want to either do nothing or reduce the price or give a credit. Most sellers don't want to make a bunch of repairs. They're so excited about their new house. They don't care about their old house anymore. They don't want to mess with it anymore, right? So anyways, but they can kind of go back and forth. There's a whole sheet. It's called the resolution of due diligence. And usually the buyer's agent will send that over and you'll kind of work through it. So anyways, that's pretty easy. And you just always have to remember when you're negotiating something like that, you have to remember there's usually one party that's in a little better situation than the other. It's either the seller has 30 offers, you just were lucky enough to get the contract. In that case, your seller probably shouldn't be doing a bunch of repairs, more than likely, because they can just go back on the market, go back to one of those other 29 offers and move forward. And the buyer knows that. So even if the buyer asks for major repairs, when you tell them no, they're gonna be like, okay, well, we still want it. We'd still like to go ahead and move forward. You're like, okay, perfect. So, but on the flip side, if you've been on the market for 180 days and, this was the only offer you had, you barely kept it together as it was, the seller's gonna be like, what do we need to do? Like, what kind of repairs, what kind of credits do we need to do to make sure we can get this to the closing table? So you just have to kind of recognize where you're at a little bit. You can still confidently ask for things no matter which side you're on, but you have to have a little awareness around what the situation is, basically. And all buyers and sellers act less motivated than they really are. They all want to act like they could walk away from the deal in 2 seconds, and usually neither of them will, but yeah. So no one wants to look desperate. So okay. Order closing gift is on this. That's pretty easy. Oh, now I messed up my list. Send a thank you card midway. We send that with a gift so that they have we send it with, I think, a gift card, but I know basically what it says is, hey, How are we doing up to this point? We're about halfway through the transaction. How's everything going? Anything specific we can do for you? So we just want to make sure that they know we care and we're engaged. Provide a moving checklist. So that's something that we offer. That's available to you. We've got the template for it right there. Check to make sure the appraisal is good. So that's the other major hurdle is appraisal or financing. So how do we make sure the financing goes really smoothly when we're representing the seller? We're not representing the buyer who has the lender. We're representing the seller. You have any idea, Jesse? How would a seller's agent make sure that the buyer's financing goes through? Like, what could we do to impact that? Heck yeah. Like proactive. Totally. Totally. Yeah, if you want notice, people can deal with stuff if they have notice about it. But if we go until the very last day of the finance and appraisal deadline, then the buyer's like, hey, like we've got major issues, we've got to change stuff. It's really difficult to get everyone to agree at that time. So one thing, like through our checklist, we have get updates on the loan process every week. So that's so that we reach out proactively, because I would say most lenders are not like ours. They're not proactively going to let you know. They might have an automated system that will send like a little thing that says where they're at. Might. But most of them, you're not going to hear anything unless you reach out. So as soon as you go under contract, reach out. Well, before you go under contract, reach out to the lender. Make sure it's good. Once you accept it, reach out to the lender. Hey, we're now under contract. Is there anything you need from us to make sure this goes as smoothly as possible? The next week, hey, how's everything going? Anything we should know about? Anything we can help with? If you do that every week, it's gonna help you build a relationship with the lender. The reason that makes a difference is they're gonna want to help you because they're gonna feel like you've got a good relationship. And they'll also probably give you a heads up if there are some issues so that we can make sure they get resolved. So communication is probably the only way you can deal with that. There's no way to 100% make sure that the buyer of your listing is going to close. Their financing is going to close. There's no way to 100% make sure, but you can definitely help. And then the appraisal, obviously, appraiser is going to come out. They're going to give it some sort of value. If you're representing the seller, the appraisal doesn't matter as much because, I mean, it's not your appraiser, it's not your financing you're trying to get, but it does affect you because if the buyer can't get the appraisal at that value, there's going to be a problem. If the appraisal comes in too low, the bank is going to ask them to come up with the difference in cash, which your buyer may or may not have, but also may or may not be willing to give, even if they do have it. So you kind of have to just negotiate it out. The buyer, of course, is always going to try to get the seller to reduce the price to the appraised value. If the seller's willing to do that, great, you can do that, move forward. But usually the seller is going to be a little resistant to that. I always learned, my mentor always told me, hey, when the buyer's agent calls and says, hey, the appraisal came in low, that your response as the listing agent is supposed to be this. Dang it, hope we have better luck with the next buyer. That's how my mentor just told me. He's like, I'll just say, hopefully we have better luck with the next buyer. And one time I was doing a deal with him. I was the buyer's agent. I called him. I legit called him, asked him, said, hey, our appraisal came in lower. And he's like, you already know what I'm going to tell you. And I'm like, he just started laughing. And then he was like, yeah, we'll work it out. We'll figure something out. So it worked out fine. But I do think, and I don't know if that's necessarily exactly what you should say, because that might make people a little upset. But it's certainly what it does do is it moves the stress from you to them. All of a sudden they're like, oh shoot, like I got to figure this out. How am I going to make this work? Which I think is kind of nice. Not saying, I mean, we work together to get it done, but you can kind of shift. That's one way of shifting the responsibility, because the buyer's agent's going to be like, what are you going to do about it? Like, how are you going to fix it? And it's like, what are you going to do about it? Like, it's your deal, So anyways, if it comes in low, they'll usually ask us to reduce the price. Maybe we meet in the middle, maybe we don't, depends like where we're at. If we think we can go to market and get a better offer and possibly get a better appraisal, then we do that. If we think we can fight the appraisal, like maybe it was a bad appraisal and it really is worth what it's contracted for, then we'd probably fight the appraisal. And there's ways we can do that. I mean, I've done that with some success, not 100% success, but we've definitely been able to get appraisals changed. Anyways, so that's really the main thing. Those are the two big hurdles: inspections and appraisals are the big things. And then, yeah, keep in mind, our main job is to negotiate the deal and get it contracted. All the stuff that we do from contract to close is honestly as a courtesy to our clients to make their lives easier. It's actually not really a requirement of our job, which is interesting. But our job is to market and negotiate real estate contracts, and then everything else we do just out of courtesy and so we can get other referrals, right? Any comments out there? I haven't heard from you guys in a while. David, Jamie, Carly, all doing good? David, are you eating anything exciting? Is there anything?
Sorry, man, I was
on?
gonna
Carly?
keep chewing on my food, but I was just gonna ask, going back to the appraisals, how can you get, I know you can request another appraisal. So what can you do just to make sure you get the perfect appraisal, like the price that you're looking for?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if there's a way you can get exactly what you're looking for, to be honest, but you can. I mean, if there's an issue with the appraisal, like there's something wrong with it, then we just submit a really nice little email. You usually would send it through the lender. The lender will kind of pass it to the appraiser. But basically, the only things you can really do is you could say, hey, I think these comps might work a little better than the ones you chose because of this reason, that reason, and the other reason. And then they can kind of review it. And if they agree, they may change the price. You can also, I always find typos, which usually in an appraisal, there's so much info in it that there's usually always going to be a typo. And so I'll go find some typos like, hey, it said that this house had this many square feet, but it didn't add this many. And I'll go find all the typos. There will be some usually. And then I put those in the email in a really nice way. Like, hey, saw a few things that were a little off on there, just to kind of add a little doubt maybe, but in a respectful way. Like, hey, noticed a few things were wrong. Also, I think this comp and that comp were maybe a little bit better for these reasons. They have to be legitimate. You have to actually believe that and be able to tell them why. But if they agree with that, then they will likely change the value. So, and any little bit helps, because sometimes, I don't know if I've ever had an appraisal changed that fixed the deal, but I've definitely had appraisals changed to get the deal closer so that we could make it work. And I'm sure sometimes you could have it fixed all the way, especially if there's major errors in it, but it's usually not major stuff, more like minor stuff. So, and your question specifically, can you get a new appraisal? Almost never, but in some cases you can. It just depends. But normally they're going to go with, like, if it's FHA, there's really no option, I don't think, right? So for the most part, you're getting the appraisal that you're getting. That's kind of it.
Okay.
Yeah. So, okay. All right, let me just make sure I don't miss anything here. Obviously, negotiate the appraisal is a big piece of this. Review the closing documents. That's super important. You want to review the closing documents prior to closing. Now, this says review it, receive it, and then the next one says review it. That's because if you don't ask for it, you may not get a copy of it until closing. So when you show up at closing, usually the title company will show you, here's what the deal is. And if you're working with, well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how good of lenders you're working with, because if you're representing the seller, you're not going to get those closing docs unless you specifically reach out to the title company and say, I got to review these with my seller. Do you have the updated numbers? And then you can review those with your client. You want to do that. I just do it over the phone, but you want to do that before closing, because if you show up at closing and there's a major issue, it's going to make you look like you weren't paying attention. You weren't being a professional. You don't want the issue to happen at the closing. So if you go through it with them the day or two prior, you find an issue, you can have it resolved. By the time they get to the closing table, it'll all be buttoned up. It'll be nice. So you want to do that. So yeah, you want to go through that with them. And that, again, that's not a requirement. That's not something you're necessarily going to learn about at real estate school. It's just like something that you want to do to make sure your clients are taken care of. Of course, like we talked about, closing gift, however you want to do that. However you want to do that. The nice thing is you don't really have to do a key handoff when you're working with the seller, because seller will leave all their extra keys in a drawer in the kitchen. You'll have the key that's in the key box. The buyer agent will grab that, get them access in there, get them to all their keys, their garage door openers, all that stuff. So you're pretty much done. We do use a sign installation company called Get Listable. That's who I use, at least on our little team. But yeah, so Get Listable will like install the sign, install the lockbox, do all that stuff for us, and then they come take it down. So we're talking, that's why we say listings are easily leveraged, because a lot of this stuff you don't have to do yourself. You know, you have to kind of project manage it, but you don't have to do all this yourself. They say that a buyer's agent maxes out at about 6 to 8 active buyers at a time. That's like max capacity. But they say a seller could have 20 to 30 listings at one time without an assistant and survive. I don't know if that's exactly true, but even if you're going to hire an assistant, you could hire one assistant. Whereas if you had 20 or 30 buyers that were active at one time, you would need buyer's agents like crazy, right? And buyer's agents are going to take half the commission. So your profitability is going to go way down, right? So, okay, send a congratulations card to the seller, send a gift to the seller, update. One of the things in here is update the address for the seller in your database, because now they're gonna have a new address, most likely, right? Send just closed postcards to the nearest 200 neighbors. We added this. This isn't at the end. This is if the property is vacant, do a weekly check on the home to ensure it's still safely locked up and clear, make sure the lights are turned off. That's just something that I learned from my friends that do a lot of foreclosures. I was going through their lists of what they do to keep their banks happy. Because if we do have listings for multiple months and whatnot, and they're out of state or whatever, and the house is vacant, for us to just go check on it, make sure the lights are off, make sure it's locked up, I think is just a good value that we can add to feel warm and fuzzy about it. So anyways, all that, then we do have scheduled follow-ups, like follow up with them the following day. You have to remember, if you're working with a seller, you're likely talking every day or every other day. So to go from talking every other day to not talking to them for months, kind of weird. Feels weird, right? Have you ever worried that someone would think that you're doing real estate just for the money? You weren't caring about what they actually like. You weren't caring about them as a person. If you want them to think that, close, collect your check, and never call them again. And then they'll more than likely think that. So if you don't want to, on the inverse side, if you don't want that, call them. See how they're going. See how things are going. See how they got moved in. Order pizza find out when they're moving and send pizza to them. Like find ways to add value, you know. Honestly, I think we've covered everything. You guys have any questions, comments? Well, that was easy. David, Jamie, anything?
Oh, I was just wondering if you can send me that document that you were reading. I was having dinner, so I didn't have time to take notes.
Yeah, totally. You got it. Yep, I'll send it your way. And you have access to it through the PC Material Resource Library, which is this thing right here. Now, you'll all get an email tomorrow. It's a Friday email that we send out that'll say the calendar looks like for next week. So what the classes are, what the locations are, all that stuff. It's going to have the Zoom links. It's going to have the place for you to report your numbers. If you report your numbers on that using that button, you'll get Facebook leads over the next week, which is awesome. So do that. Even if your numbers aren't amazing at this point, just go report your numbers. That's all you got to do. Just go report like how many people you talked to, how many you added to your database, how many contracts you wrote in your case. I mean, probably a lot, right? A lot of contracts. Brand new. But yeah, just go in and report how your week went, basically. And that's the only requirement to get Facebook leads. I feel like it's a very low bar. So I imagine I'll see all of you reporting your numbers this week, because then you get free Facebook leads, which is just, you're not going to want to base your business on these free Facebook leads, right? But it's going to be a few extra conversations where you can practice your script. You can really get comfortable with it and also turn those into deals too. But the more conversations we're able to have, the more diverse conversations, you'll just get the hang of it a little bit quicker. So anyways, and oh, to wrap that up, one of the buttons on that Friday email is going to be the PC material resource library. Click on that. It'll take you here. It'll give you all these resources. We're looking at contract to close. So seller contract to close checklist. There's also that listing process checklist, which is the first one. So anyways, you have access to everything that you need. But if you run into something, you need some help, just let me know. I'd love to do it. And yeah, we should be set. Anything else? You're good? David, Jamie, thanks for being on here. Let me know if I can help and we'll chat soon.
Well, thank you, man.
Yeah, thanks guys. See ya.